Hey, welcome back to the Marketer of the Day podcast. We are here with Lewis Schiff. Lewis Schiff is all about birthing of giants. He is all about moonshots. He's all about money makers. He is about taking these multi-million-dollar companies and making them succeed beyond their wildest dreams, accomplishing amazing things with technology and with innovation. So Lewis, glad to be talking to you.
Thanks for having me, Robert.
I'm glad to have you. And so this is the Marketer of the Day podcast. We talk about people from all kinds of walks of life. I mean, years ago, I spoke with some lady who her specialty was she taught dieting by using Indian spices. Years ago, I talked with someone who is some kind of a therapist who goes to prisons, who teaches people how to kind of achieve their therapy goals through drawing. So we have many people from many walks of life, different business owners, different industries, and everyone is special and unique, including you yourself, Lewis. So can you tell us what makes you personally unique and special and why we should all sit up, pay close attention, turn off the phone, close the door, put the baby away, and pay 1,000% attention to you right now?
I have probably spent 25 years studying success in America. Before I say that, I'm not just an academic. I also have built multiple businesses that I've sold. So I am a walking, talking entrepreneur, but I've also, for whatever reason, always found the topic of entrepreneurship very important. I've written about 5 books on the topic. And what I'm really interested in, what keeps me up at night, is how is it that regular people, I'm a regular person. I grew up in New York City. I went to New York City public schools. There's nothing particularly exceptional about my upbringing. And unlike a lot of people, we call ourselves the middle class. How is it that the middle class tends to generally perform in a predictable fashion, except about 10% of them have a very different outcome? They're the ones who create wealth. So we all come from the same place. We all have the same kinds of families. We all have the same educational backgrounds. We all have the same friends. We all have the same access to resources. Why is it that 1 out of 10 of us seems to do so much better than the other 9? And I have been plagued with this question for 25 years.
Well, this is a centuries old question, right? This is like the target of Think and Grow Rich, of looking at all this data, all these people, and you say a huge chunk, they don't even know where they're at, what they're doing. They don't really have much in terms of goals or kind of directionless. And then some percentage, you're for sure that there's luck is somewhat of a variable, but it seems like there's like some amount of inputs and factors and lifestyle choices that they're doing correctly that we all need to tap into. So you've been obsessed with this question for decades. And is it an easy answer, or is there an easy way to jump in? How do we begin to even crack this nut?
Well, that's a great question, Robert. So I've written a lot of books on the topic, coming at it from different angles. Sometimes I come at it from the point of view of, what kind of businesses do you want to create? Sometimes I come at it from the point of view, what kind of attitudes do you need to have personally? But I mean, to the question of if it's easy or not, I will say this: you have to look at the world differently. And that's super hard, right? Because whenever someone comes along, as I might in the next few minutes, when you ask me some questions, I might say things that you've simply not heard before. And that's a moment of truth in business. I will tell you that the most successful people I know look at the world differently than almost everybody else. That's a really hard thing to do. We're all pummeled with, this is how to look at the world, social media, this and that. This is what your opinion should be. And there's a very rare person who can break out of that and say, actually, I see it differently. I'm going to use my Friday and Saturday nights differently than most people. I'm going to take the extra few bucks I've squirreled away from my job and use them differently than other people. That's a rare person.
And I've been trying, not trying, but I have been doing my best to tap into some of these kinds of exceptional skills, because it's easy to fall back into that averageness, right? It's easy to just say, I'll do what everyone else does. But then if you can work weekends, or if you can have almost this like OCD sort of almost pathology of building your business, or if you can always make an effort to be optimistic and positive and polite and active and all these things that we know we should be doing. So you said that you've written all these books on the subject. And is there like one big thing that you see that we're all missing out on? Because you always hear about all this self-help, personal development kind of stuff, but what is the whole world missing out on that you from your travels and adventures have noticed?
All right. Well, I'll have 2 answers, because one's about you, the individual, and the other's about the business you create. So you, the individual, the most successful people I know, and almost everyone I know who's successful, will tell you that they are very, very well connected to the thing that they're uniquely good at. Now that sounds easy, like figure out what you're good at and do more of it. The really hard part about that is when you flip it on its side, on its head, you have to learn how you're bad at a lot of things. You have to learn all the things you're bad at to carve a way to come up with what you're good at. So in the real world, you know, you're talking to somebody, what I'm saying is you have to fail over and over and over again to figure out what you're going to succeed at. And most people do not have the stamina or the tolerance or the elasticity to fail over and over again to finally figure out this is the thing I'm good at. So I wrote a little book called The First Habit, and I reveal in that book that I am really good at asking questions. Now, what do you do with that? Right? And my answer was, I started a school. I asked business owners all over the country, what makes you tick? What makes you tick? I asked them 100 different ways. Somebody once described it as having a conversation with Lewis is like having a conversation with a blowtorch, that he strips away the veneer of every answer you give him and he asks you the next question, the next question. And out of that came a curriculum, a roadmap for a school where these pretty heavy hitters, these pretty big business owners come in, owners of pretty big companies, and they leave with much, much bigger companies. You know, so to pay myself a little compliment, LeBron James probably has the best basketball coach money can buy, probably. He's the best, so he gets the best. I like to think of our school, which is called Birthing of Giants, as these are the best entrepreneurs and they get the best teachers. And I've been getting there for years by asking questions. That's my skill. So Robert, what's your unique skill? What makes you unique that you can bring to the business world that if you do more of it, your business will be bigger and you'll make more money? And that is the question we all need to ask ourselves.
And I'm not even sure how to exactly answer that. I feel like I needed to have some kind of like really profound answer teed up and ready to go for you. So that way I would blow your mind, but putting me on the spot, I don't really know exactly. And is that normal? Is that okay?
It's very normal. So if you can imagine, I've got 30 business owners. So that room that I put together where we teach out of Princeton is going to be in revenue terms, let's just say there's $1 billion in revenue in the room, you know, across 30 owners and whatever, 10,000 employees, whatever it would be. When they walk in on day one, it's a 5-day course, okay, 9 to 5. Day one of hour one, I have them send emails out to a dozen of the people they're closest to and ask them this question: what do you think you're best at? It's all in the book, The First Habit, literally what the email should say. So we do that on day one. And on day 4, we check their answers that they've gotten back from everybody. And so these are pretty successful people. And when I tell you that on day 4, when they get their answers and we start to sift through them and talk about them as a group, I have seen tears. I have seen people say, that's it, I'm selling my business. I'm starting a new business that I've always dreamed of that's better tuned into who I am. I mean, that sounds like an innocuous question, which is, what are you good at? And when you really ask that question in a very open-hearted way to the right people, it could be life-changing, the answer.
And so kind of as you're explaining that, and the gears are turning into my own mind, right? I'm imagining myself in this class. I'm imagining myself sending these emails, 4 days later, getting the responses back. What comes to mind is I used to be a computer programmer. I guess I still am, but a few years ago, I made all these different software plugins for our business, and they're still out there and they're still selling, but it has not been my main focus. And now my current focus is on doing this podcasting, on doing this all this book publication, and a lot of it is in managing these other employees and kind of keeping the machine running and debugging the system and having all sorts of instructions. And with those two ideas in mind, maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, I was at a conference where one of my mentors, he told the crowd, and he was like kind of talking me up, which I'm sure you've dealt with this, right? Where you're not speaking, someone else is on stage kind of hyping you up. And he was telling the room that I was good at creating the template. At like, if there's something to be done, I can kind of make the instructions and put it in place. So I feel like as you're explaining your answer here, there's like all these worlds colliding, right? Of like the programming, which is kind of in the past, which I feel guilty about not kind of keeping that business growing. It's kind of just kind of sitting there. And then there's kind of the newer frontier here, which is the podcasting and the books, which is kind of more exciting for me now. And it's more tapped into maybe like that ikigai kind of factors, where there's like what you enjoy and there's what other people say you're good at, and there's what makes money, and there's what people actually are looking for, and all these other factors combined. So I wonder if maybe there's like the person that I was, or that I thought I would, or I hoped I would be, that's now clashing, or maybe kind of trying to settle in with this reality of what other people are saying as well. So is that kind of along the lines of what the 4-day kind of aha is reality hitting your own perception of yourself?
You did. That's a great explanation. I really almost don't want to add anything to it. I think that what that mentor was saying about you, that doesn't make him or her right, but it's certainly worth listening to, because it's other people who see you differently than you see yourself. Because the thing that you're probably really good at, Robert, is something that comes so naturally and easily to you that you think, what's the big deal? Right? To go back to LeBron James, like, he can dunk a basketball. It's just no big deal to him. But for me, it's an impossibility. So it just comes naturally to you that you're able to build these templates or build these roadmaps or processes to get from point A to point Z. And if he saw that in you, I would be extremely curious about that and see if other people see it that way too. And to compare that to your technical skill, let's say as a programmer, it doesn't, it's up to you. I mean, but if there's like these higher value skills, like the one that your mentor described about you, that's how you'd run an organization. That's how you'd build an enterprise. But if you're the best coder in the world, or you're just really good coder at, whatever the language is you were coding in, yeah, you can make a lot of money that way. It's probably not going to help you build a full-on scaled up business, because it's like I know I'm using a lot of athletic examples, but if you're a really great baseball shortstop, you really can't do anything other than be a baseball shortstop. That's all you can do. So once you stop doing that, you stop making money. But if you're a person who can build templates and roadmaps, you can do that in bigger and bigger ways in bigger enterprises.
And I feel like it's almost been like a growing up, maturing, becoming an adult sort of transition from being the doer to maybe more of a delegator or someone that grows things. And it's been uncomfortable on this whole journey. I've been really unsure if these are like good stretch goals to be more of a business person, to be having more conversations, doing podcasting, getting affiliates, things like that. And I've never been sure if this is what I'm supposed to be headed towards, or if I'm just becoming less of myself. Is that a common issue?
So this was happening so much in our Birthing a Giants program, where there are these owners of pretty big, 10, 50, $100 million companies. But and this goes back to my obsession, is like, why don't the rest of us do this? And so I saw the behavior patterns and the roadmaps of all these successful entrepreneurs who would come in with a business that might have been worth $20 million. And then we worked with them for a few years and they'd sell it for $200 million. And we realized that there's a bigger opportunity. So basically, we host this event called Moonshots and Moneymakers, which is kind of designed to help bring people along this roadmap, right? You can build a kind of a small business, and don't trust me, there's nothing wrong with a business that's worth $20 million. And then you could rethink it and build a business that's worth 200 million or 2 billion. And then the Moneymaker is the $20 million business, and the Moonshot is the $2 billion business. And so the question we essentially ask everyone in the room is, how do you get from Moneymaker to Moonshot? And in that Oxford program, it's not owners of companies. I mean, it is owners of companies. It's also CEOs, startup people, VPs of technology, or people who influence tech in their company. Government officials show up, heads of digital transformation in corporate America show up. So it's everyone who's saying, how do I take these, and this is your question, how do I take these raw ingredients and come up with something even bigger? The raw ingredients that are you. Two chefs go into a kitchen, one sort of an amateur and one is really good at being a chef. They have the same ingredients. One puts together an okay meal, the other one puts together a delicious meal. You can't blame it on the ingredients, it's the person. And so in Moonshots and Moneymakers, we would take all these questions you've raised for a week. It's a 5-day program at Oxford University in England. I mean, it's a phenomenal experience to be there. Stephen Hawking walked those streets. J.R.R. Tolkien walked those streets. It's kind of incredible. And you are asked to take those same ingredients we all walk in the room with and turn it into a really big enterprise.
I like that analogy. And you mentioned that there's so many different people from all kinds of walks of life. Some are owners, some are startups, some are government people. Is there any particular story or any particular like person or business that you worked on there that you feel like talking about? Because we could go in all kinds of different directions, but the moment in time story is what kind of like gets us feeling like we're there. So what comes to mind there?
Sure. So we had, of all people, a guy who runs a janitorial services business, okay? 300 souls that clean buildings at night. I mean, it's a fairly low-end, low-tech business. And he was at the last one, and the person at the front of the room, so the Oxford R&D community is incredible. This quantum computing and There's, acceleration colliders. And you're like, well, what does this have to do with my business? So the guy at the front of the room is talking about a robot that they're designing to go to Mars. Okay, Mars, the planet Mars, all the way out there. What does that have to do with my business? So Greg, the janitorial services company, makes a joke. He made a joke kind of under his breath, but everyone heard it, which was, okay, you got a robot that's going to Mars, but can the robot do corners? Remember, he's a janitorial services guy. He's looking for someone that can do corners. He wants someone who can clean those hotel rooms and those offices. So we laugh about it. Everyone laughs in the room. It's kind of a funny joke. Guess what? His business is worth tons and tons more money because he incorporated robotics into his janitorial services business. So the thing about making a moonshot is that no one's going to serve it up to you. You're going to hear about natural language processing and predictive analytics and big data and robotics and life sciences and molecular solutions. And you have to figure out how it works in your business. But if you figure it out, your business could be worth 10 or 100 times more than the next guy's because you figured out how technology changes the game.
And so is the lesson to be learned here is that we need to be maybe doing like a deep think on some of these questions? Because at the beginning, you mentioned that you're a question guy. And sometimes, I'll go in and watch a YouTube video or listen to a podcast like this one. And I'll think like, okay, well, did I get something out of it? Right. It's as if I'm like eating a big meal or something. But then so many times I'm listening to someone in some other industry with some other problem, and it puts some weird question in my head that like I kind of chew on and have a think on, and I might come to the answer like weeks or months later when I'm not even expecting it. But it seems like so many times it's just a matter of not really saying like, oh, I want this tip or I want this answer, but like I need to be thinking about the right question.
So that's why we put it in Oxford University, because if you've never been there, it's just a 1,000-year-old institution. Amazing things have been invented or conceived of at Oxford. So I believe that you feel that. I believe that energy exists at Oxford. So that process you're describing about letting things simmer and letting things process and coming up with great answers, I believe that you need to go to a physical environment that allows that to happen. And I think Oxford is a really good one. That's why we hold it there. But I'll give you an example, because you can hear this stuff and you can still, even after hearing the janitorial services example, say, all right, I get why that worked for him. I still don't know what it's going to do for me. And so I'll give you another example. Corporate catering business, okay, in your town, let's say they do $5 million of business. Let's say they serve the companies around you. They do corporate events, they do weddings, etc. They've got themselves a certified kitchen that passes all the health regulatory requirements. They've got chefs and other staff members that know how to work in that environment. They've got vans that can shuttle food around. They know how to pack that food up. That business that's doing $5 million in corporate catering, let's say it makes $1 million in profit a year. Maybe it's worth $5, $6, $7 million to a buyer. Take that exact same business, everything's the same, but you layer on top Postmates or Grubhub and Seamless, Uber Eats, and all of a sudden that one kitchen is now a Chinese restaurant and a burger joint and an Italian food restaurant. All these same restaurants appearing in one kitchen, health requirements, vans to move stuff around, etc. That same business, $5 million with $1 million of profit, is probably worth $50 million. You've turned a moneymaker into a moonshot. All you did was layer on top technology. So the question you're going to be asking yourself when you're walking the courtyards of Oxford is, how do I take the thing I've built, refashion it, add something to it to turn it into something much more valuable? And it's a brass ring question, right? It's a grand slam question. And if after the end of 5 days or the next 6 months that follow, you haven't figured it out, that's okay. Still got your moneymaker business. But the question is, what's the transformative opportunity in your business? And we walk through case studies and a roadmap about how you do it, the questions you need to ask yourself, the ideas that you need to be contemplating, the rules that your idea must meet, the requirements it must meet in order to be truly valuable to the marketplace. And at the end of it, it's up to you to, as I said, take those same ingredients and come out with a better meal.
And I like that thinking a lot, that you're not just throwing away a perfectly good business that's making money. You're saying, here are some new ideas. Here's a new experiment. Here's a new thing I can try on a small scale. And if it completely blows up in a good way and it surpasses my expectations, I can continue on that path. But the worst case scenario, I still have a money maker business and not a moonshot business. But if the moonshot idea fails, I can tweak it, I can try it again, I can go and figure out some new strategy, but I at least have something that that it's working now, and I can try again if it doesn't work. But if it does work, then I'm glad that I took the risk. So you keep saying that this event is at Oxford University, and how important it is to be there and live and in person. So if someone says this is amazing, I want to attend this, or I want to view this, how do they do that? Do they have to travel to Oxford University? Do they have to enroll as a student of this? What's the next step here?
Yeah, so birthingofgiants.com is where it's our school, and there's going to be a section called programs, and one will be called Moonshots and Moneymakers. The reason I'm mentioning it on your podcast is because the only people who can get into our primary school, Birthing of Giants, the primary school, are the owners of businesses between 5 million and 250 million. That's a fairly rare group of people, but the information and the wisdom is so great that we created another way for people to tap into it. But yep, you got to get on a plane. You got to go to the UK. I can't, maybe one day we'll put Oxford on your VR goggles and you'll feel like you're there, but you still need the smell, and you still need to feel the raindrops of England. When we have done this program in Oxford, what happens to people, everything physically and mentally and emotionally because of that place is everything. There's so many traditions at Oxford that foster thinking. I'll just tell you one really quickly that I love. The way you eat is you grab your food from the cafeteria, and then you sit on the next available seat. It's these long rows, just like you saw in Harry Potter. Somebody who went to the program called our program Hogwarts for Entrepreneurs, if you're a Harry Potter fan. But these long tables, and you just take the seat next to you, the seat that's open, and you have no idea who you're sitting across from. Could be the most, gifted professor of astrophysics. It could be a brand new student. You have no idea. And then pretty much the question that they all ask each other at Oxford when they sit there for their meals, and dining is a gigantic part of the Oxford experience, is what are you working on? What are you working on, Robert? And I might be sitting across from you, and you might be, a theoretical astrophysicist. And it's the tradition as you explain to me what you're working on. And then when you're done, you say to me, what are you working on? And we've got a few people either side of us, and we're all talking. Every meal is a chance to learn. And that's why Oxford works. That you cannot replicate that in your home.
I like that a lot. And you're making me miss, in general, just going to different events and feeling like of being outside my own space and outside my own eating area, and coming across new people, and just having that feeling of anything is possible, and being like a completely different person when I'm off on that trip. And then knowing that when I go back to reality, or when I go back home, I'll be back to my older self, but maybe a little bit changed, and maybe 5% of vacation Robert will come back and kind of breathe new life. So that way I'm no longer going through the motions. And I love that it's what are you working on? Because it kind of, I'm sure like it kind of makes you know where you're at. Because I'm sure you've come across this, Lewis, is that it's easy to just kind of drift through the days sometimes, right? And be like, man, what have I been even doing the past 2 weeks? Just kind of the same old slog. And, hard work is fine, and going towards a goal in a straight line, sometimes to get to the next milestone is fine, but so it's so easy to get lost, right? And to not know where you're at and what problem you've solved, and even if you have reached the finish line of that. So I love that whole idea in general of even just thinking, what are you working on? Even just in general, just to verbalize it. And so that way you can kind of get it out and know, okay, where am I at? Because it's a simple question, but so few people know where they're at, kind of relating to what you're saying earlier of there's 90% that don't get it and 10% that do get it. So that's an interesting question. Where are you at? What are you working on? And
when your mentor on stage said that you have an eye for putting templates together, well, let's just say that's who you are. That is your great gift. So then what are you working on is the chance for us to hear how that unique capability is applying it to the place you've chosen to apply it. Maybe astrophysics, maybe business, who knows? And so now I'm talking to a person who's uniquely talented at something, and they're in the very act of applying it to the thing they've chosen to apply it to. And as your recipient of that conversation, I get to hear how that all works out. And so my question to you, Lewis, is what are you currently working on? That is a great question. So I have been around this so much, these money makers pivoting to moonshots. I found a 200-year-old organization that has been running as a money maker, for 200 years. And I presented to them, myself and a few other people presented a way to turn it into a moonshot. And so we are in the process of turning a 4-year academic institution okay, a college, a university, into a global, eminently scalable education technology business that will be a moonshot 10 times over. So basically, Robert, my promise to you is, what am I working on? I'm eating my own cooking, and I'm building a unicorn. I'm building a company that will be valued at over $1 billion. Just give me a few more years, but we're in the process, and we're turning a moneymaker into a moonshot.
Well, exciting stuff, exciting times. And you hear about this so much, how like there's so many areas of education that just haven't really changed since Roman times, or haven't changed since the Industrial Revolution, which I guess is okay, because you don't want to throw out something that's working, and you want to, go and get like your foundational knowledge and get your kind of evergreen problem solving skills. So that way you can take that old knowledge and apply it to modern day and things that change. But you always wonder, like, isn't it time for some kind of like revolution in education? So this is interesting and fun what you're doing, especially with, technology and all the fast paced things that are, available to be done these days. So this sounds like an exciting project that you're working on, an exciting goal that you're reaching. And so how do we find out more about you? How do we take the next step here? You mentioned Birthing of Giants, your books. How do we find out about everything there is to know Lewis Schiff?
Well, I'll tell you a really easy way. So in addition to, I encourage your listeners to check out Moonshots and Moneymakers at Oxford, which is happening in August of this year. We also launched a video site called How I Did It. And it's every month we drop a new case study, extensive deep dive into how one entrepreneur did it. And that's free. And so birthingofgiants.com/howididit. And they can sign up, and every month they'll be told there's a new case study, a video, 30-minute video, a breakdown that they can read, a podcast that they can listen to in the comfort of their car. We have an Ask Me Anything with that entrepreneur every month. So it's a kind of a really comprehensive way for you to learn how they did it. A lot of folks from the comfort of their own home don't have the chance to meet some of the entrepreneurs I have regular contact with. So I've asked many of them to say, I want you to sit for a How I Did It, and I want you to make yourself available to the How I Did It community. And they're happy to do it. So birthingofgiants.com/howididit.
They're happy to do it, to explain how they did it.
They're happy to do it, to explain how they do it. That could be my tagline.
It should be, or maybe something a little more carefully thought through. But so birthingofgiants.com/howididit. And as we wrap up, wind down, is there any singular piece of advice that you wish you'd known 10, 20 years ago, with all your travels, all the problems that you've seen? What do you want to tell us, or what do you wish someone had told past Lewis?
It's okay. You're asking for one. Obviously, I'm a student of all this, but the first one is, it is called the first habit, which is to figure out what you're uniquely skilled at. What I end up calling, what's your language? And so I think I wish I had a shepherd over the year. I actually have that shepherd now, but I mean, we'll call him a mentor, for lack of a better word. I wish I had someone who said, okay, look, you're young and you don't really know anything, and you don't really know anybody. So your job is to figure out what you can do and who you need to know, which is difficult and easy, really. And so you're supposed to, for a while, do a bunch of things where you say, yeah, I'm not good at that. Yeah, I didn't like doing that. And just keep kind of exploring and pivoting. And you're supposed to also be building your community, that hopefully your network that one day will be valuable to you. I say it that way because when I was young, all I wanted to do was make my first million. That's all I ever thought about. But I wasn't really being advised to look at this question of what did I learn about myself from my last failure? Instead, I was just trying to make a lot of money. And I did make a lot of money, but I didn't learn a lot, actually. And so now I'm very focused on, if I, to the degree, because I have undergraduate students that I teach, young people have very fragile egos because they don't really know what they're good at yet. So they just kind of think that they're stupid, or that they're just useless, and they're not. They're just green, right? They just don't know anything yet. So I try to encourage them to try anything. So the example I shared at the beginning of this conversation is, like, we have someone come into that program who at roughly the age of these undergrad students, he built a push cart that sold hot sauce. And, he built it with his own money, cost him a couple $1,000s. And he would go out on Friday nights and Saturday nights to like music venues and sell hot sauce. And now that business is worth tens and tens of millions of dollars. But you got to go back to the beginning when he said, I'm willing to take a few $1,000s and try and build a push cart. I'm willing to put on my overalls and push that push cart. And this is New York City, push that push cart through the streets of New York to a music venue. I'm willing to take my Friday and Saturday nights and see if anybody wants to buy what I'm selling. And that's the thing, is he's a rare person, because that's pretty brave. But what are we doing to test what it is we're good at right now? And yeah, there are sacrifices you have to make. We can never forget this. Money is scarce for a reason. If we all had $1 million wouldn't be worth anything anymore. Money only has value because some people have it and most people don't. And so when you want to be one of those people who tries to have money, you're going to have to do something differently than everybody else. That might mean taking a few of your dollars and then putting a push cart together, and taking your Friday and Saturday nights when all your friends are hanging out and having a good time and experimenting. You're going to have to do something different, and you're going to have to take the risk that you fail. And if you're lucky, you'll have someone around you who says, it doesn't matter if you succeeded or failed. What matters is you learned about yourself.
Amazing and powerful. And you hear this kind of almost cliched advice a lot with the entrepreneurial lifestyle habit to fail fast and to use your failures as a teacher, but it makes a lot more sense in the context that you provided it. So we all need to take a page from your book, and in general, just be around whatever this energy is, right? And to
Yes.
be curious about what other people are tapping into, what they have going on, even if they're completely unrelated to us, even if it's a completely other industry, even just kind of getting some of these insights or knowing what their behavior is like can help so much in unexpected ways. And the place for us to find out more about that is to go to birthingofgiants.com, and especially birthingofgiants.com/howididit. So go there right now while it's still fresh on your mind. Don't just bookmark it or write it down. Go in your browser right now, birthingofgiants.com, because guaranteed in about 37 seconds, you'll have some phone notification popping up. So birthingofgiants.com is the place to go, and we'll see you there. And thank you very much, Lewis, for showing up and just completely blowing our minds and giving us something that we need to listen to like 6 or 7 times now.
Thanks, Robert. Thank you for sharing your audience with me.
Thank you for thanking me.